So having themed menus for my cocktail parties with only 3 drinks each allowed me to throw banger parties as a nerdy doctor. And in this video, I'm going to explain exactly why that's true. My name is Ron Verpin. I'm a full-time medical doctor, and I've been a home bartender for over 5 years now. During that time, I learned how to make over 100 different cocktails, and I've thrown over 50 cocktail parties. And I teach other busy professionals how to make cocktails at home. And in this video, I'm going to be going over the exact reasons for why a high-quality cocktail party menu consists of having a theme, and it consists of having 3 exact cocktails on that menu. And I'm very experienced, as you can tell from the intro to this video. I've been home bartending for over 5 years now, and I've thrown 50 to 60 cocktail parties during that time. And the cocktail parties that have been the absolute best, the true banger cocktail parties, are the ones that follow both of those 2 rules in terms of the actual cocktail menu for those parties. The menus consist of cocktails, usually 3 cocktails on that menu, and the cocktails on that menu follow some sort of theme. And the party in general follows some sort of overall theme. When I meet those 2 criteria for my cocktail party menus, that's when I've noticed that I've thrown the absolute best cocktail parties in terms of the overall fun and the experience that myself and all of my guests have at these types of parties. So let's go over each one. So before we get started, if you're a beginner home bartender, or maybe you're even more intermediate or advanced, something that you're going to want to do at some point is to throw a cocktail party. Or maybe you have already thrown one cocktail party or even several cocktail parties, and you just want to make those cocktail parties better. If so, then this is the correct video for you, because you're going to want to learn how to make, how to throw high quality cocktail parties. And the first step is to really build out a high quality cocktail party menu for those parties. So those consist of 2 components. The first is the number of ingredients on that cocktail party menu. And I've experimented with a number of different ingredient amounts for my cocktail parties. I've gone with as low as 1 ingredient on the cocktail menu, and I've gone as high as 8 ingredients on the cocktail menu. And I've also done cocktail parties without anything on the menu, essentially a menuless party where people come up and I just ask them what they want to drink, and they say a specific cocktail, or they ask me oh, what do you want to make, or something like that. So if you throw something that's menuless, I feel like that is very hard to do as a home bartender, because you're limited on space and you're limited on the amount of ingredients and things like that, and time and other resources like that. So it really leads to sort of a lot of problems when there is no menu and somebody just comes up to your bar and they're like, oh, make me something that you like, or maybe they don't know, they're not as familiar with cocktails. I know before I started getting into home bartending, I wasn't really familiar with different cocktails. So if I had gone to a party and somebody asked me what drink do you want, and there was no specific menu, it would have been very hard for me to do. So that's why I think menuless cocktail parties are really not the way to go, especially as a home bartender, because one, people just don't know as much about cocktails as you do as a home bartender. And another reason is that when you, even if they do know, they might ask for something that you don't have the exact ingredients for. So because you're limited on these things like resources and time, and also because your guests are maybe not as well versed in the whole world of mixology, really having no menu is definitely not the way to go. So then why do we settle on 3 cocktails for your menu? Really, this is part of the whole Goldilocks principle. I think having 1 or 2 is too few, and I think having more than 3 is too many. And why is 1 or 2 too few? The reason is that there is not enough optionality with that amount of cocktails for a cocktail party menu. Something that you're going to notice when you throw these kind of parties is you're going to have guests in really 2 buckets. The first bucket is guests that are like myself, where we have a huge range and diversity in the types of cocktails that we like. I like shaken cocktails, stirred cocktails, and highball cocktails. I like whiskey cocktails, vodka cocktails, gin cocktails, tequila cocktails, cognac cocktails, rum cocktails. I like sour cocktails, sweet cocktails, bitter cocktails, dry cocktails. I like the whole range of the whole diversity of cocktails. And there are going to be some of your friends and family members that fall in that same category. But there's also going to be a number of friends and family members of yours that fall into the other category, where they're more picky, they're more specific with the types of cocktails that they like. I know some people that will never drink tequila cocktails. I know some people that only like sweet cocktails. I know some people that only like dry cocktails. I know some people that prefer to have sour cocktails. I know people that, they tend to avoid any types of dark liquors like whiskey or cognac. I know people that, they're the exact opposite. Maybe they'll avoid certain clear spirits, like they avoid gin or they avoid vodka. Or, everyone has a certain spirit that they don't like. Everyone has a certain ingredient that they don't like. Maybe some people don't like lime juice. Some people don't like banana liqueur. Some people are allergic to nuts, so they can't have anything with orgeat. There's a lot of different reasons in terms of taste preferences and allergies and, different things and whatever profiles and ingredients people like or don't like. So, most people are not going to be as diverse. I really say that, from my experience, it tends to fall 50-50. 50% of people are going to be like myself, where they have a whole wide variety. They have a varied palate. They like a whole variety of cocktails. and the other 50% are going to be more specific. They only like cocktails of certain things, or maybe they have certain ingredients that they're averse to for either taste preference or allergy or something like that. So when you only have one or two cocktails, you run the risk of having an entire menu where nothing on that menu fits a certain guest or a certain set of guests. So that's why I think having one or two cocktails is not really enough, because you don't get enough optionality, you don't get enough variety in the types of cocktails that you're going to be making. So you run the risk of having certain cocktails or an entire menu, for example, where somebody doesn't like any of the cocktails on that menu. So that's a problem when you only have one or two. When you get to more than three, though, you run the other risk. You have a lot of optionality. You're definitely not going to have a whole menu where people don't like certain cocktails. But when you have 4 or more cocktails on your menu, then that becomes a little unwieldy to do as a home bartender. Because you're a home bartender, you're doing this essentially out of your own kitchen, and you're limited on a lot of different things, including time, space, money, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, when you're prepping for your cocktail parties, if you have 4 or more cocktails on your menu, that just increases the amount of ingredients that you have to purchase before the party. So that's a big sink in terms of your time and your money. Then when because you're making this out of your own home, it's also going to take up a lot of space. This is not just a bar. This is also your home. You're going to have to store food. Some of you that are watching may live with your family. You may have kids. You may have a partner. You may be living with roommates, whatever the case may be. You're going to be constricted on your space because you're sharing that space with other people, and you're also using the space, for your kitchen. So it's also going to be storing your food for your, because you have to eat as well. This is not just a bar. This is not just a commercial or a, kind of space like that. So you're going to be limited on time, money, space. So when you have higher amount of cocktails on your menu, that just increases the burden. That increases the time you spend acquiring those ingredients. That increases the money that you spend on those ingredients. That increases the amount of space that those ingredients take up in your own home bar, which is your kitchen, So that's going to be the space in your pantry, the space in your fridge, the space in your freezer, the space on your bar cart, whatever the case may be. It's just increased amount of space that you're going to be taking up. I think every now and then it can be fun to throw a party that has a lot of cocktails, just as a way to really test yourself out as a home bartender. I did this personally for my own 30th birthday party. I threw a cocktail party where 8 different drinks were on the menu. And I thought, that was just a really fun thing to do. I was nearly 3 years into my journey as a home bartender. 30th birthday is a very big deal, very big milestone. So I wanted to do something crazy, something big, and I threw a party with that many drinks on the menu. But I would not really recommend that for day-to-day activities. For the vast majority of my true banger parties, they all had 3 cocktails on the menu. 3 is really that sweet spot in terms of you have enough optionality, but 3 cocktails is not too much where it becomes unwieldy and really logistically hard to do as a home bartender. So that really covers the amount of cocktails you need for a good cocktail party menu. The next step to do is to come up with what are actually going to be the cocktails on that menu. And the best way to do this, and I found that the true bangers, including my 30th birthday, which had 8 drinks on the menu, really the best way to do it is to have some type of theme for that cocktail party. So for example, I'm recording this in February. We got Mardi Gras coming up. One of my absolute best parties as a home bartender was the Mardi Gras party I threw 4 years ago in 2022. Absolute one of the best. And Mardi Gras is obviously a New Orleans associated holiday. So New Orleans is one of the cocktail capitals of America. So I picked 3 New Orleans cocktails for that menu. I picked the Hurricane, the Sazerac, and the Ramos Gin Fizz. So all 3 of those cocktails fit into that overall theme of New Orleans, of Mardi Gras. And I only chose 3 cocktails for that party as well. I didn't choose too few or too many. So that's one of the reasons it was such a banger party. And this is something that you can do for really, whatever time of year you're doing this. I'm honestly going to go out, let's just map out the whole year for you. Let's say, for example, January, obviously January 1st, you got New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. So you can do some type of cocktails that have champagne. You can do something like the Death in the Afternoon. You can do the French 75. You can do gin version of French 75, cognac version of French 75, and Death in the Afternoon. Those are 3 champagne cocktails. And that really, champagne's obviously associated with New Year's. So that's a great way to do something for like New Year's Eve or New Year's. Then, February, I already talked about Mardi Gras. You also have the Super Bowl. You have Valentine's Day. So really, if you're trying to throw like a Super Bowl party, what I would do is, whatever the 2 cities are for the party. For example, a few years ago, I did a party for the Super Bowl where the Eagles played the Chiefs. So that's Philadelphia and Kansas City. So I picked one cocktail that represented Philadelphia and then one cocktail that represented Kansas City. And then I had another cocktail that just had beer as one of the ingredients. So that sort of incorporated all the different aspects of Super Bowl. So I covered one team with one cocktail, I covered the other team with the other cocktail, and then I covered beer, which has a huge football association, with the other cocktail. So I had 3 cocktails that really fit that theme. Then, February also is Valentine's Day, so you can pick different cocktails that are maybe they have grenadine or something in there to make it more red. So a great example is something like the Jack Rose, which uses grenadine and will have a reddish, pinkish color to it. So that's a great cocktail to use for if you're a girl watching this and you want to host a Galentine's Day brunch or something like that, that's a great cocktail to throw for that. So, we're covering through January, February, then March, you got obviously St. Patrick's Day is a big day in March. St. Patrick's Day theme of that is everyone's supposed to wear green. So you can use an ingredient like Midori, which is a green, bright green melon liqueur. Great ingredient, honestly. And also great color with the ingredient. So you can just pick like 3 different cocktails that use Midori. And all those cocktails are going to be green. So, people are going to be wearing green to your parties. They're going to be taking pictures. That really covers that aspect of it. And you can also do like certain whiskey cocktails, but sub out the whiskey for Irish whiskey. So that's a great way to incorporate the Irish aspect of St. Patrick's Day. Then, April, May, this is spring. Not really a lot of big holidays associated with alcohol in April. In May, we do have Cinco de Mayo. So for Cinco de Mayo, you can do 3 tequila/mezcal cocktails. You can do a Paloma, margarita, Mexican firing squad, different types of cocktails like that. Oaxacan old fashioned, for example. So I've thrown Cinco de Mayo parties where I just had like different Mexican cocktails, different like tequila and mezcal cocktails. For April, May in general, you can do, and even June to some extent, you can do like more spring-based cocktails. So try to find cocktails that have more like herbal or floral, different notes like that. So try to come up with things like that. Obviously for January, February, you can do more like winter-based cocktails that use cognac or whiskey as their base spirit, cocktails that maybe contain heavy cream or nutmeg, some of these more like winter cold weather type of ingredients. Then you get into the summer, you get into June, July, August, early September, things like that. So obviously in America, we do have 4th of July, so you can try to come up with patriotic cocktails like that, cocktails that are associated with American history, like the Philadelphia fish punch or the the fish punch, something like that. You can come up with maybe cocktails that have different colors. So you can come up with a blue cocktail and then a red cocktail and then a clear cocktail. So that's like the red, white, and blue combination. Or just in general for summer, because it's warmer, you want to be associated with more like tropical or tiki style cocktails that use rum, cocktails that use pineapple juice, cocktails that use a mix of different fruit juices like passion fruit and maybe passion fruit syrup and orgeat and different tropical ingredients like that. So that's how you can come up with cocktails for summer. Then you go into the fall season. Fall is associated with a lot of holidays in America. So, October we have Halloween, November we have Thanksgiving, Christmas is going to be, and Christmas and the overall holiday season is going to be in December. So for those kind of cocktails you want to come up with for those kind of menus, you can come up with cocktails that have more of like those fall winter ingredients. So I think of something like the Bramble, which uses a blackberry liqueur, or something that uses those kind of ingredients like berries or stone fruits, something with like peach liqueur, peach syrup. So any of those kind of ingredients, and of course I already mentioned with winter, you can use anything that uses like heavy cream, cognac, nutmeg. So Brandy Alexander is a great option. I threw an ugly sweater party a few years ago, and one of the, there were different ingredients or different cocktails on that menu. So one of them was a Brandy Alexander, which uses cognac and and also uses nutmeg and uses heavy cream. So those are all very winter associated ingredients. I made the penicillin, which uses scotch and ginger and honey. So a lot of these winter type ingredients. I made a hot toddy one year for a holiday or Christmas ugly sweater party. I made a spiced holiday like fruitcake punch type drink, which also contains a lot of those same ingredients. So whatever type of party you're doing, just try to pick a theme. I really cover the whole calendar, especially if you live in America. We have so many different holidays in this country. But whatever country you're living in, you can pick different holidays for that time of year. And also for your specific culture or the culture of your friends. I personally am Indian, South Asian, Hindu, so I celebrate Diwali, which is always in October, November. So I generally throw a Diwali party, and then I have ingredients or cocktails on that menu that sort of incorporate more Indian style flavors. Like for example, one of my favorite desserts as an Indian person is gulab jamun. So I made a unique cocktail, a gulab jamun cocktail. So it incorporates those type of flavors, mainly like cardamom syrup. So I made that personally for that drink. And I haven't made that cocktail yet for this channel, but maybe at some point I will. So that's like a unique cocktail that I made for that. And then I found like certain cocktails that used coffee liqueur, but I actually found this chai spice liqueur, and I just subbed out that for the coffee liqueur. So it was like a chai version of different coffee-based cocktails. So I created a cocktail menu uniquely for that, just to fit that theme. And I had a lot of Greek friends in residency too. So for like Greek Independence Day or different Greek holidays, I would throw parties for that. Obviously, throughout the whole year, there's going to be different birthday parties. People have birthdays. If you have a big friend group, you're going to have birthdays like literally every month of the year, and you can throw different birthday parties. So when you throw a birthday party, you can have general birthday style cocktails. Like I know how to make something called a birthday cake cocktail, which is a great cocktail to throw for any kind of birthday party. But really, like whatever person you're making that party for, if they're a good friend of yours, a good family member of yours, you'll know what kind of flavors you like. I know certain friends that like certain types of cocktails. They'll come to my parties and be like, "That was my favorite cocktail." Okay, so then when it's that time of year for their birthday, that's the cocktail that's going to be on the menu for that birthday. Like, if I have somebody that likes vodka cocktails, for example, when I throw their birthday party, I'm going to be doing stuff like the lemon drop or the Moscow Mule, for example. So these are just, if I really wanted to go really in depth and come up with cocktails for every single type of cocktail party, every single type of theme, every single type of season, month of year, whatever the case may be, this would be like really like a 2 or 3 hour type of video. I try to cover a lot of the overall basics for some of the more popular holidays, especially the holidays that are associated with drinking and alcohol. But I couldn't cover everything in just this one video. So really, if you're struggling or you have some ideas for a cocktail party menu for a specific type of holiday or specific type of event, but maybe you haven't come up with the entire cocktail menu, or maybe you just want me to review your cocktail party menu, just go ahead and comment that down below. Say something like, I'm throwing a St. Patrick's Day party coming up next month. I want to have 3 different cocktails on the menu. I've come up with like 1 and 2. What do you think of these 2? What do you think should be my 3rd one? Just comment something like that down below. Myself and some of the other people watching these videos will definitely help you out as soon as possible. So anyways, that's really the whole gist of it. Like I said, I've thrown 50 to 60 cocktail parties, and I've noticed that the cocktail parties where the menu fits these 2 criteria, 3 items on the menu, with the exception of my 30th birthday party, obviously, but 3 items on the menu. And then the second thing was they had some type of overarching theme that tied all the different cocktails and the overall party together. Those ended up being the absolute bangers. Even for my 30th birthday party, which had 8 cocktails on the menu, the overall theme was 7 sins theme, and all of those cocktails, each cocktail was in one of the different sins. One of the sins actually had 2 cocktails, so that's why it was 8 cocktails in total, not 7. But when you have some type of overarching theme that links all the cocktails together, and that theme kind of encompasses the entire party in general, you can tell your guests to dress up in certain outfits. If you're throwing like Mardi Gras party, tell everyone to wear gold, purple, and green. If you're throwing St. Patrick's Day party, tell everyone to wear green. For my 30th birthday party, the theme was Death of My 20s, so I told everyone to wear black. And then I had that 7 sins type menu, so that really creates this whole overarching theme. And that's really one of the things that, when I did it over these years, and like for example, like another example is the ugly sweater party. Tell everyone to wear ugly sweater or something holiday themed. Make a bunch of different holiday cocktails. It'll create an overall greater experience than when you just throw like some generic party. You tell people to wear whatever, you have decorations as whatever, you make whatever cocktails. When you have these exact themes, that's when there's something more cohesive about that party, and at least it's just an overall better party. And from over these past 5+ years throwing 50+ cocktail parties, the cocktail parties where I've had an overarching theme, and those cocktail party menus, every cocktail fit that theme. There was only 3 cocktails on that menu. Those were the true absolute banger parties. And if you follow these ingredients, you yourself can throw those banger parties as well. Even if you're a nerdy doctor like myself, even if you have a busy full-time professional job, even if you have a busy personal life like myself, you can still do this. You can still throw amazing parties. Anyways, that's all I have for this video. If you found the advice in this video helpful, please go ahead and subscribe to the channel below. I really like to do 2 styles of videos on this channel. The first will be like this one, where it's more talking head style. I give general advice, share tips and tricks, stories from my own journey, and things like that I hope will help you guys become better home bartenders. The second style video will be a tutorial showing you guys how to make a specific cocktail. And if you're really serious and really want to invest money into this hobby, I've created a paid community on school.com. The link for that will be in the description below if you really want to take this home bartending journey to the next level. Thank you. Cheers.